Well, hello everybody. Martin Cordner here, coming to you with another Composer Meets conversation. I do hope you're all well. I hope this Sunday or Monday, if you're in Oz, is finding you well. And as many of you will know, I've been doing a few of these chats with different Salvation Army people around the world during lockdown, really, just not just to give me something to do, but something that I thought might bring encouragement to people and to inspire you all as well. So using this online technology, which is absolutely fantastic when it works, we're able to do these things. So a warm welcome to you all. As you can see on screen, I'm very privileged today to be joined by Ken Waterworth, who many of you will know is the bandmaster of the Melbourne Staff Band and also the Territorial Creative Arts Secretary, I think it's called. Ken's going to correct me if I've got that wrong in a second, and based in Melbourne in Australia. So we're 9 p.m. here in Great Britain. It's 8 a.m. where Ken is on Monday morning. How's your morning going so far, Ken? Welcome. Good to see you.
Oh, great, thank you. Great to be with you, Martin. I mean, certainly, it's a good day here in Melbourne, and looking forward to sharing some time with you. Who have, I should say right up front is that I've really appreciated your support as a composer for the Melbourne Staff Band. You've been very willing when I've reached out to you to write for us, and so I want to thank you for that, for your support, and it's great to join you in this particular chat.
Thanks, Ken. I really appreciate that. It's been a joy to write for you guys. You know, when a band comes to you to ask for a piece of music, and you know that they'll try anything, because that's basically the MSB from my point of view. They'll try it. They'll try it. They're not afraid to stand up, move around, you know, change instruments or whatever it is. It's a genuine privilege. So yeah, I think I've done a couple of pieces for the band over the years. One of the most recent was Flashpoint, I think, for Boundless, wasn't it?
Was, yeah.
And maybe we'll get to that because it'd be good to talk about Boundless as we go through. But yeah, Ken, let me ask you a few quick fire questions just for a warm up. Your favourite sport? Dare I ask an Australian gentleman what his favourite sport is?
Well, I certainly enjoy the AFL, Australian rules football.
Okay.
Generally speaking, as a young kid, I grew up playing Australian rules football during the winter and playing cricket during the summer.
Yeah.
So I suppose of the sports, I suppose they're my two sort of go-tos. And enjoy opportunity, certainly as a spectator nowadays, certainly not a player.
Yeah, I sympathise with you in that regard. I'm a great sportsman in my mind, and absolutely useless in on the pitch. But yeah, AFL is the crazy version of soccer. That's how we kind of view it over here. But it's definitely full of energy and I guess sometimes controversy and all the rest of it. But it's a good sport.
Oh yeah, yeah. Certainly, it's something us many Australians certainly very much love. It's our own sport. For others
Right.
overseas, they might sort of think it a bit strange, but
Yeah,
certainly we all love it over here.
yeah, good on you. So, what at the moment, Ken, is your favourite Salvation Army piece of music? Now, that could be brass or vocal, but what for you is it at the moment?
Well, I think that the piece of music that I always go to is Les Condon's "The Present Age."
Right.
It's a great piece of music, but I think that the reason I keep on going back to it is that the message contained in it is just still relevant today. I think that's the challenge for us in the world today is being able to sort of fight our way through everything else that's around us to still stand as a Christian. And so I think while it was written, obviously in the 60s, the message still is something that I sort of relate to very much today. And I suppose it's my go-to, I suppose, when I'm really thinking in terms of favourite pieces of music.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, it's unbelievable. I've got very close to that piece recently myself, Ken, because our core here are doing a monthly brass special where someone in our core band chooses a favourite piece. We had a special guest last month. We had Don Jenkins,
Right. Yeah.
the legendary bandmaster of Bristol Eastern Band, and he told us about the story of his band playing it at the Albert Hall in '95,
All
and
right.
it's a tremendous presentation of the piece. But I had to put together the media for that, and so we did a fresh kind of video take on it, and that
Yep.
meant I had to listen to it with fresh ears, really, and try and come up with something. Marvelous music, yeah. Thanks for that. And what about a favourite Salvation Army song? If you had to pick one out of the songbook, what would we sing for you tonight? We're not going to do that, but what would it be?
Look, I think I go back to one, and actually, I think it's my dad's favourite too. Is "He Giveth More Grace." I
Ah,
think
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
that I go. Dad often refers to that one, but yeah, I think that's probably one that I would go to too. I think.
Absolutely. You won't believe this, but that's a song that also has captivated me in recent years. I'm just reaching for a book here. I was on the live stream of Sunderland Millfield Songsters a couple of nights ago, and I told them about this book. You might have even seen it, Ken, but it's called The Making of the Beautiful. It's a story of Annie Johnson Flint. And
Right.
the lady who wrote that song, she was riddled with arthritis for her whole life. And a bit like, people like, I don't know, Fanny Crosby and people like that who lived with disability their whole lives, yet still wrote beautiful songs about how marvelous and how blessed they were by God. I mean, it's just so touching, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
it is.
I'm hoping that I might be able to do something in terms of a piece with that song, maybe with RSA's Blacklands tune, but there are other tunes as well which are popular. But it's a fantastic song, isn't it?
Yeah, the song, and I think Stedman Allen's tune, I think, is the one that I go to.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're looking for somewhere to send the piece of music when it's written, Martin,
Okay. Okay, you just thought you'd get that in there before anything else. Okay, great. Well, look, Ken, tonight I thought we could talk about a few different things. I'm trying to think of what people might want to hear about from you, and I think it would be interesting for us to. Well, we'd love to know about you and your family, and what you've been getting up to these last few months. We could talk about that, but also your involvement with the Melbourne Staff Band, which goes back a fair while to 1979. We'll go all the way back there, and be great to have some memories for you. Maybe we'll get to talking about hints and tips for aspiring conductors or bandmasters, because you've been doing this a good while, and I'm sure you've learned some tips and tricks that you could pass on to people. So we could get to that later on as well. And if we can talk about Boundless and ISB 120 as two significant events where you and I were around the action for those two events, we could talk about some memories there as well. Does that sound okay to you?
fine. Sounds fine.
Fantastic. Now, everybody watching, you may recall that the format of this is we'll talk, but it would be a shame if it was just the two of us talking and you, all observing. Why don't you get involved and talk with us? If you want to leave a comment, we'd be ever so grateful. Even if it's hi guys, we can give you a shout out. But you might have a question for Ken or for me, and we'll try and get to those. So if that's okay, everyone, get involved and join the chat with us as well. So then, Ken, you're married to Lynn, and I think you've got 4 children. Tell us about your family and how things have been for you during these crazy months that we're in.
Yes. Lynn and I have 4 children, all adult. 3 our daughters. 3 daughters are all married, and our son Brandon, he's still at home. So basically, as many would be aware, certainly in Victoria particularly, we've been in a fairly heavy lockdown. So we've been really stuck at home with very little sort of contact with the family. It's starting to relax a little bit now. Lynn had the opportunity to be an official carer for our first granddaughter, Eiley, who Ashley and Nick have a daughter, Eiley. So she gets to see her, had been able to get to see her reasonably regularly.
Right.
But basically, she was born August last year. So I saw her sort of June, and then just in recent times. So just for a little kid like that, all of a sudden she's not a baby anymore. She's a little girl. So
yeah,
that's those things that people probably miss is just that contact with family, particularly young children and stuff who grow up so quickly. But hopefully we'll get a chance to sort of see a bit more of her. But yeah, we're all at home. And yeah, we're obviously working from home has been the state of play for me since March. And it's a rhythm, I suppose, while you don't necessarily enjoy it all the time. It's a rhythm you get into. And and I suppose worked reasonably well under the circumstances.
Yeah, it's been really, really challenging. You're coming out of lockdown. We're just going back into another one, and it's just so challenging. As corps officers, we're so frustrated that we can't do what we feel is our first love, which is to be with our people, to minister from a platform on a Sunday and shake hands with everybody. We just today had our Thanksgiving service for our corps because we're leaving our buildings for a refurbishment in the new year. So online we did this massive special episode, and seeing the pictures of the hall full of chairs as it was and just how we left it in March, it really emotional. So we're going into lockdown, you're coming out, and various territories and countries around the world are at various stages, in between. It's a tough time for our world, so stay safe out there, everybody, and let's hang in there together and keep connected through these kind of virtual ways is one way that we can do that. So Ken, you're at Box Hill Corps in the suburbs of Melbourne, I believe. Tell us about your corps and what you get up to there, what your duties are, please.
Well, we're obviously in exactly the same place as you in terms of being in lockdown, but the exciting thing, I suppose, for the Box Hill Corps is that we, just this last Sunday, yesterday, was our final gathering, so to speak, even though virtually, at our present location. The Corps is moving into a brand new facility up on the main road of Box Hill, right alongside the town hall. It's the building, sadly to say, the building's just about ready, but unfortunately we can't get into it. That's an exciting sort of new era, I think, for the Corps. But yesterday they sort of had a farewell segment in the virtual meeting. But yeah, so that's something we look forward to. I've been the bandmaster at the Corps. I think probably must be 10 or 12 years now, I suppose. It was one of those situations you can appreciate, Martin. The bandmaster of the day said, look, I'd just like to take 6 months off. Could you fill in for me for 6 months? And here we are 10 or 12 years later.
That's how I'm not surprised. We hear that in every corps in the world, isn't that right? That's the way it goes.
Yeah, so yeah, enjoyed being involved with the Box Hill Band, a band who's very passionate about their ministry, have had a very solid ministry right around the world, I suppose, in one way or another, but certainly at the local level, very still passionate about their opportunity to share in ministry and the Corps and out into the community. So that's I look after the band there, involved in also teaching some of the young kids, the young people. So we've got a bit of that happening there. Once again, sort of being very limited in the last 6 months or so in that area. But yes, my involvement, and certainly enjoy being at the Corps.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking, Ken, teaching the young ones keeps it real, doesn't it? Even for guys like us who've been playing instruments or stood in front of a band, for years on end, when you go back to the kids, it just takes you back to what it's all about, doesn't it? Do you find that they energize you, or how's it for you?
Yeah, no, look, for me, obviously, prior to taking up position with the territory, working for the Army, I was teaching. So it's really, it's my first love, really, and I still enjoy the opportunity to teach with young people. I think it's one of the things I enjoy most, I suppose, even around the territory, is opportunity to work with young people. So yeah, but just online, just yesterday with a couple of the boys from Box Hill, preparing a little solo thing they're going to be doing. So yeah, still doing that. And I still enjoy it. Having said that, not having been teaching since 2008 with the education department, still enjoy opportunity when that comes along to teach.
Fantastic. Hey, Ken, well, we've had a few comments come in, so I'll just pause for a second just to see what people are saying to us. John Brooks, he says, "Hi, gentlemen. I'm listening from Cambridge, Ontario." Well, great to see you, John. Thanks for tuning in from Canada. Tea time for you, I think, at the moment. Hope you're enjoying your maple syrup muffins, or something like that you'll be having, I imagine. Thanks, John. Matthew Bennett, he's a friend of mine and a session mate, actually in training with us, listening from Kilbirnie Corps in West Scotland. So welcome, Matthew. Glad you're watching. Let me see who else we've got. Norman Short. That's somebody who you know. He's got a question for you, Ken. Right. Ken, could you comment on the wide amount of composers who write commissioned works for the MSB? Thanks for the question, Norman. So a comment on the wide amount of composers who write for commissioned works. Not sure, Norman, whether you want Ken to talk about the number or the quality, or is it good to go cast your net wide? Well, what's your reflection on asking people to write works for the MSB, Ken?
I think one of the things, I know I've spoken with Andrew Blythe about this quite a bit too, obviously, that he appreciates the fact that we do go out across the army world to invite people to write for the band. It's not only good for the band, but Andrew sees that so many great pieces of music that have been able to be written for us have then been used and published by Andrew in the editorial department in London. I think one of the things I've tried to do is identify people and maybe particular types of music that they have a strength in, and maybe certainly trying to get a balance of music that we would use in a concert to be able to sort of target people that can write the piece that I'm after for a certain sort of moment in the concert.
Right.
Like yourself, I suppose, if we think about it, a major work, a duet, there's been an opener. I think you've done a few for us, actually.
Yeah, it'll have to be something quiet next, won't it? Just for complete contrast.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's a good idea, Ken, because you obviously, I mean, the programming of the MSB has been innovative, but also, and blazed a trail. But it's also been an example to other bands around the world, I think, and how you don't have to just sit in one place and in one position and play one type of music. When you go and do a concert, you bring a whole smorgasbord of variety. So that's something I've always recognized with the MSB, and that's why I said earlier, when you ask me to write something, I'm not really afraid, because I know you'll give me good feedback, but you'll also embrace it, hopefully. But yeah, that makes sense, going to people, because you know what you want at a certain point in the program, and you can say a Sam Creamer arrangement here will be fantastic, and a Paul Sharman whatever, and a Ken Downey. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah,
so that's what I've tended to do, and I'm very, very fortunate. I think one of the fantastic things about Salvation Army and Salvation Army music making is that obviously we have composers within the church, Salvation Army, that see it as a gift. They're gifted, and their way of giving back that gift has been writing for bands like the Melbourne Staff Band, and so we've been privileged to have so many people write for the band, and I think that's I think a great opportunity for composers to be able to sort of share their love and their gifting in music through the medium of the MSB. We count the privilege that people do that.
Yeah. Well, that's good. It goes both ways as well. If somebody like me gets to write for the MSB, it's a privilege for me. And really, we're links in the chain, aren't we? Really, I guess I'm a couple of links before it gets to you, but then you have to do something with it. And hopefully that circle completes itself and goes back to God, because that's where it all starts off. That's how I look at it. And he gets all the praise and glory. Thanks for that question, Norman. We appreciate that. Anybody else, if you have a comment or a question, we'd love to hear from you. Fantastic. So then, Ken, what is your job title at the moment? Because I know things have changed in Australia with the territories combining and things like that. So what's happened with your role? What are your responsibilities at the moment?
So basically, at the end of 2019, we formed a new national team, worship arts team it is, for our territory, which I lead a team of 8 people in our team. Some of them based around in different places in the country, divisional people that we are placed as our worship arts coordinators, as well as someone like Brian Hogg, based in Melbourne here with me, who looks after our publications. You may have heard a bit about a program that sort of generated out of this territory, Just Brass.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Sort of comes within our department, and Brittany Ling looks
Okay.
after that particular program. So I lead a team of those 8 people. It's been an interesting time because, as I said, we really only came together as a team for the first time in December last year, get through the holiday Christmas period, come back, and we're barely sort of getting the year going, and then it's all lockdown. So, in actual fact, strangely enough, it's been a time that we've really come together as a team. We've obviously met more often online than we would have. So in actual fact, it's probably been a really important period of time for us to really sort of connect as a team, identify potentially, what is it that the territory in Australia need in terms of worship arts. So that's sort of my role, leading that particular team.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been a real privilege, and I'm really thrilled to have a great group of people who are so passionate about the worship arts and the way that God continues to use the worship arts in ministry and mission throughout the Salvation Army.
Fantastic. Yeah, and we're all really impressed, by the way, by your background today, where you're giving some free advertising for your department, aren't you? But yeah, that's great to hear. But what a shame that you just basically started and then had to stop, or because of lockdown and everything else. But yeah, perhaps this is you can look at the most terrible experiences with a positive eye if you can, can't you? And you can think, well, maybe this is an opportunity for us to, as you've said, talk together and get to know each other a little bit more. So I'm glad to hear you've been doing that.
Yeah, and we've really obviously been forced into the online thing. We've had we would normally have a couple of camps for kids.
Right.
The year, obviously, the traditional territorial camp that was supposed to happen in July. What do we do? An online camp. We didn't sort of think would be the way to go. So we actually, we say now foolishly, suggested we might put together an online virtual musical. So our team wrote songs and script for an online musical, which we actually just released last evening.
All right.
So that was a 40-minute musical produced online, 50 young people around the country filming themselves on their cameras, sending all their files in for just a small group of people to have to put like over 1,000 files together. Wow. But yeah, so that's we've basically really gone down the track of embracing the virtual space and using it as best we can. We've got we would normally have a junior creative arts camp around this time of year. So we've gone down the track of trying to put on a virtual showcase and inviting some of our young instrumentalists and singers and dancers to video themselves, send them to us, and we hope to put them into a little sort of showcase concert online. So we're just sort of trying a few of those sort of things. I think one of the things I find, I'm not too sure about yourself, but all this technology and online stuff is creating so much work for us. It's so much more involved in doing things live. Yeah. So that's been a challenge. But yeah, it's kept us very busy this year. But I think we'd all enjoy the opportunity to get back connecting with people and working alongside people rather than our sort of experience as we meet like today as well. Unfortunately the way it's been.
The online workload is just horrendous. Well, I mean, it's a fantastic thing. I would never complain, but we've had to quickly, as core officers, embrace it and learn, skills in online editing and things like that. But it's so time consuming. I just wonder whether in the very near future we might even have to start thinking as a Salvation Army about people who are just doing that for us. That we
Yeah.
employ them to do that, because I could spend up to 30 hours on our Sunday program in a week, and that's stuff that's time that um, people can't give as in a voluntary capacity in our corps. So it's with me, but I would love for it to be shared out and for other people to be involved. But yeah, I wonder whether the army would have to go down that road. Maybe. Hey Ken, we've
Yeah.
got another couple of comments coming in here. So this is great that you're all joining in. Thank you very much for your comments, everyone. Derek Robertson, listening from Peterborough in Ontario. Yeah, that's 2 people in Canada we've got listening or watching tonight. Great to have you, Derek. Thanks for that. John Brooks says, I agree with you that the present age is special and has that element of the timeless. I've often wondered about another composition by Les Condon called Temple Vision, which I've never heard played and actually never heard of being played. Are either of you aware why this piece appears to be at the opposite end of the spectrum from present age? Well, there's an interesting question. So if present age is the number 1 in the, or in the top 10 list of greatest pieces, why is Temple Visions number 8032? That's a good question, isn't it? I know of the piece, Ken. I don't know whether you know of it, but I don't think I have heard it performed. I know about the piece because I wrote a march for Hadley Temple Corps, and I wanted to call it Temple Vision, and and I came across Les Condon's march, and so music editorial said you can't call it Temple Vision, so I called it Temple Visions, plural, and that's how we got around it. But yeah, what do you know about Temple Vision? Anything?
I have to say, I don't. So I did recall. So yours is a march, Temple Visions.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And was that a march or was that a major work?
I don't think it's a march. No. I
No.
can maybe look it up, but yeah, I don't know of it being recorded anywhere.
No, I immediately went to when you mentioned Temple Visions, I immediately thought of the march.
Yeah, right.
Where
Well,
I
I'm
went
very
with.
pleased, but actually we need to give credit to Les because he's the one that first. It's a tone poem, 1964. I've just checked on the samusicindex.com website. So Festival Series 277, published in 64. It's a bit before
Oh,
my time, and
yep.
you were only in nappies at that time, weren't you? 64, Ken?
Short pants.
Sure. Thanks.
Short pants. Um, I that's certainly something that I don't remember hearing much here in Australia. That's for sure. Over the years, it's not a piece that was featured a lot. Um,
Well, it's an interesting situation, though, that somebody with Les's output would, even Prayer of Childhood, which is the simplest of compositions, is immensely popular. But
yes.
I think it happens to all writers. You write something which is absolutely marvelous, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't catch the wave at the time. And maybe that's what's happened with Temple Vision. It is a tone poem written for a corps, which is called something Temple. I remember that, but I can't recall. Now, if anyone out there knows the answer, which corps was Temple Vision written for? Temple Vision by Les Condon. Let us know in the comments, and we'll resolve that mystery. We'll come up with the answer. Thanks for that question, John, or that comment. Jean and Adrian Croucher, watching from Stowmarket here in the UK. Great to have you with us again, Jean and Adrian. Thanks for being part of it. And Derek is leaving us a few more comments. So many pieces have never been recorded. Maybe we should begin a project to record all published pieces. Well, that's true, Derek, but I think there are more than 8,000 in the UK journals alone.
Yeah.
That's my recollection. Yeah, have you ever been part of a project, Ken, to sort of do a library recording, a bit like Norwich Citadel over here did with the Green Book in recent years? And I think the Household Troops maybe have done something similar with the Blue Favourites book.
All right.
Have you ever been part of anything like that?
No, I can't recall that we've done that. I suppose we've the only sort of something similar would be, we obviously have our own publications out here in Australia. And so obviously we've recorded all of those publications, which is only the last 10 years or so, really. And I suppose it's more common that you would record music and people can have access to recordings to listen to before they actually purchase music and stuff nowadays. And so that's what we tend to do for our publications. We would record a piece of music and have it available for people to listen to when they're sort of looking for music. They listen to the music. So that's really the only sort of venture we've been into in terms of sort of recording series of music. But that series we've done that for.
Well, Derek, thanks for the suggestion. Maybe there's a keen bandmaster with a creative eye out there who's thinking maybe that's an idea. It would be good to hear some of the pieces that haven't been previously recorded, wouldn't it, and give them an airing, I guess. So thanks for that. Keep the comments coming, everybody. So Ken, let's go back to your earlier years. Tell us how you came to be part of the Salvation Army. What's the story of your early years and how you got into music making in the Salvation Army?
Yes, well, I think in myself, I'm like many. I think I grew up in the Salvation Army. My parents and both my grandparents were Salvationists, so I grew up very much in a Salvation Army home. Dad was in the Melbourne Staff Band. Dad joined the band in 1963. So from a very early age, the staff band and Salvation Army music making was part of the family. It was part of the life of what we did. In those days, I think Mum and Dad tell me that there'd be regularly Saturday night concerts around Melbourne and that sort of thing. We'd all be sharing in, and so we'd be regularly going along to Salvation Army events. So I grew up with it. I suppose loved opportunities just to go along and listen to the staff band as a young boy, and so really got a love for brass band music through that. And then I suppose did the usual things in terms of YP band and that sort of thing, as well as as what we do at the core. For me, I think. I don't know that it was that common, but when I started typically on cornet as a young 8 or 9 year old. I think I did a little bit on cornet. Then they were looking for a horn player, so I went on to horn, and then on to euphonium at about the age of 12 or 13. And it wasn't necessarily common in those days to go and have professional lessons. But Mum and Dad, I don't know whether people had said that Ken might have something worth developing. But I went off to have professional lessons as a boy, mainly through the high school years. I had lessons from a guy by the name of Ken Smith. Some of your listeners may know of Ken. Ken was a New Zealander and actually spent years in England playing in the Ferry Aviations Band with Wilf Mountain and that sort of time. Yeah. So he was a fine, fantastic cornet player. Certainly a champion cornet player. Eventually arrived back in Australia and lived in Melbourne. So I had lessons with Ken for 5 or 6 years. Wow. And then Ken moved away from Melbourne to go to Sydney to become the head of brass at the Conservatorium in Sydney. And Matt Carter I had lessons with for a couple of years as well.
Matt was in the ISB, wasn't he, a long time ago?
Yeah, Mac was one of those ones after the ISB toured to Australia. He was one of the guys who sort of migrated to Australia shortly.
How much did you pay him? What was the incentive?
Well, maybe it was just the lifestyle and the beautiful weather and sort of beaches and all sorts of stuff. But yeah. So I had lessons with Mac for a while. So yeah, very fortunate as a young kid, and it's interesting. You look back, and I'm not too sure about yourself, but I don't know that I can remember what I was taught as a young kid. It's one of those things if I try to remember now, what did Ken teach me? I'm not necessarily sure I can remember too much of it, but obviously that he was a wonderful musician, wonderful Christian gentleman. Yeah. Was a churchgoer. Don't know whether an interesting little bit of information was Ken was a churchgoer, and at a period of time where they decided they would change, Keith McPherson had been the bandmaster at Box Hill for a number of years. He was the bandmaster who took the Box Hill Band on the world tour in 1970. Anyway,
that's the one with the absolutely brilliant LP cover, isn't that right? With the suitcase in the shape of Australia, isn't that Box Hill Band?
That could have been, that could be the one. I do remember something similar with Enfield. It's not the Enfield one.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, because did they do Australia and New Zealand? Maybe. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, forgive me, everybody. Yeah, just having a brain meltdown.
But Ken was a churchgoer, and actually, then, as I said, as Keith McPherson finished, he was encouraged to come to the Salvation Army to be the bandmaster at the Box Hill Call for a period of time.
Wow.
I had a great opportunity as a young boy to learn from Ken, and I think it was he was very musical, and I think his lyrical sort of playing was something I think that he instilled in my playing. I would hope there was something there.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This idea that we can't remember the detail of what we've been taught. My wife came upon a quote the other day. It's similar with Sunday sermons. So this is some encouragement for all the preachers out there. People might not be able to remember anything you've said at all, but they've been fed, and they know that they've grown, hopefully. So they can't remember the specifics, but they do know that what they've received has hopefully fed them. And I think it's the same with teaching as well. You know that you grew as a musician, Ken, and I suppose that's the main idea, isn't it?
Yeah, sure.
Hey, a few comments coming in here, so let's just see what people are saying. Nigel Mapes, one of your partners in crime down there in Melbourne, Norwich Citadel, a fantastic core band. I wonder why Nigel's saying that about Norwich Citadel Band.
I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about it. There must be some reason he's saying that about Norwich Citadel Band. Great to have you watching, Nigel. Hope you're well, you and the family. Andrew Mayer is he's a songs leader at Sunderland Millfield, who I was chatting with the other night on their live stream. Enjoying the chat. Thanks, Martin and Ken. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate you tuning in tonight. Thank you. And Thomas Quick, listening from Kitchener in Ontario, our third Canadian viewer. Come on, the Canadians. I think you're leading the way tonight with your comments. Thank you very much. And Chris Ward from here in the UK, evening gentlemen, listening from Canterbury. What a great place. Say hello to the Archbishop for us, please, Chris. Hey, Ken, before we went on air, I was just telling you that the one album I remember you had played a solo on with the MSB was the Centenary album that the MSB recorded in 1990. I'm just going to try and get it on screen here for everybody so they can see what I'm talking about.
I hope
it's this one here with this blue cover, isn't it? Do you recognize that?
Yeah, that actually that was a live performance. That was the
Oh wow, yeah, I see that now. Recorded at the Robert Blackwood Hall. Yeah, wow, 27th of October, 1990.
Yeah.
So you're on here playing David Chalk's variants on St. Francis, which is a fantastic solo. I heard Simon Burkett play that. Simon, God rest his soul, who left us for heaven just a few years ago. And David is such a gifted musician as well, and has given us some lovely music. Everybody knows his setting of I Surrender All, which came in the sort of early 90s out in the UK publication. For Sing to Lord or whatever it's called. So yeah, what are your memories of that recording, Ken? So we're going back to 1990 when you were you principal euphonium at that time?
Yes. I joined the band in 1979. As I said, as a young kid, I sort of was around the MSB. Surprisingly, I should say, probably must have been 76, 77. I might have applied for the band as a young sort of sort of older teenager.
Yeah.
But then surprisingly got a phone call from the bandmaster of the day, Colin Woods, in 79, asking whether I would be interested in joining the band. It was something I aspired for, but quite seriously didn't think I was going to be good enough to be playing in the Melbourne Staff Band. I had certainly admired and been thrilled by David Harvey, who'd been the euphonium soloist of the band. David is my cousin, and
Right.
so we grew up the core together at Moreland, and I grew up listening to David, and so it was a thrill for the day that I actually got to sit alongside him in the Melbourne Staff Band.
Yeah.
And so I joined the band in '79,
Yeah.
and David finished in I think about '83,
Hmm.
and so I became the principal euphonium around about '83
Okay. Okay.
time, and yeah, and really, I think I have to admit, I still think the best bit's playing in the band. I think it's better than conducting. I think it's I I really enjoyed playing in the band, and particularly playing in the Melbourne Staff Band. It was a thrill,
Yeah.
and I'm sure I'm not too different to so many um, bandsmen who have been part of the Salvation Army. Is that certainly banding has been very much a foundation in my spiritual journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think my spiritual life has grown and matured through banding. I think many of us would attribute certainly a spiritual walk that was established maybe as a young person in the Salvation Army, but has been nurtured and certainly as a young player, being in a band with more mature Christians, I
Mm.
think was certainly something pretty special. And
Yeah.
certainly some of the real close times I think I've had with the Lord have certainly been moments when I've been playing with the Melbourne Staff Band as a
Mm.
young guy there. I think it was
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
significant. So it was about 10 years I think I would have been principal euphonium of the band, and loved it, and had a wonderful time as a player in the band.
Yeah, yeah. Well, everybody, that album that Ken and I were just talking about I recommend you go and listen to it. Colin Woods must have had extra caffeine that day, because your solo is taken at breakneck speed, and but the technique of the cornets and trombones, especially with the is just fantastic, and in jubilance of cornet and band as well, which I think was David Collinson. I think somebody like that played that solo. Yeah, I think it was David. Yeah. Yeah, good album to go and look up, everybody. So then we just finished talking there about you being principal euphonium for 10 years, which takes us up to 93. You were appointed as the bandmaster in 94.
Yes.
So there's a year gone missing somewhere, Ken. So let's lay a few ghosts to rest. Let's just put it out on the table once and for all. What actually happened because you finished with the MSB, and
Yeah.
then a year later you were back and you took over as the bandmaster. So what happened in that situation?
Look, I think certainly I in the early '90s there, I think I'd had a couple of opportunities to uh, lead the band at the Territorial Music Camp, and they'd been quite sort of powerful moments. I think where really God was really speaking to me, saying, what might He want me to do with my life? And I have to say, I wasn't necessarily sure whether the staff band was where He wanted me to be. I sort of felt that maybe there were other things, certainly that possibly I should be doing, and just sitting around in the Melbourne Staff Band, maybe for the day when I might be asked to be the bandmaster, wasn't necessarily in God's plan. So I genuinely was quite intentional and say, okay, I'll move out of the band, and we'll see what sort of comes of that. Well, it wasn't too long after that actually Colin Woods, the bandmaster of the day, announced that he would be retiring, and then the opportunity, certainly I was approached about being the bandmaster. So I think one of the things I've sort of felt during my spiritual journey is that I've certainly felt that God has been part of the process all along. I think so often we talk in terms of God having a plan for our lives. We've still got to make the decisions
Yeah.
as we do, but I've really sort of felt a sense of God being alongside me in whatever decision I've made, and He's honoured what I've given to Him, and I suppose that was certainly part of it. And being the staff band, becoming the staff band, obviously was something that became part of God's plan for my life, and I certainly appreciate the fact that that was given to me, and for one reason or another, I'm still here. as the
Yeah,
bandmaster
absolutely.
was band.
Yeah, yeah. That's really nice to hear you talk about, God's plan and how we discern that. But we preach that as corps officers as well. That God God leads and guides us, but it's down to us to understand His will, because He gives us a brain. Let's be honest. He gives us a
Yeah.
faculties, doesn't He, to be able to communicate with Him. He gives us a gift of prayer, and sometimes it's about pushing doors. It sounds like that 93 time was a time for you to be pushing doors, and you trying to, yeah. So but anyway, you had that year out, and then the phone call came, and you were back in. Do you think the year out benefited you in any way?
I think one of the things that those who have actually stepped up into leadership, particularly from playing within a band and then sort of taking over leadership, but I found it actually quite good in an actual fact that sort of just gave me that little bit of space,
Right.
not being having sort of sat in the band and being one of the boys, so
Yeah.
to speak. And then to have a little bit of time out, then to come back as the bandmaster, I think was just a good sort of time, just to sort of change that sort of role
Yeah.
for me, I think.
Yeah.
And look, to take over from Colin Woods was quite a task, as you'd
Yeah. Of
appreciate.
course. Big shoes. Big shoes. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think one of the things I really appreciated, particularly in those early days, is that the guys, and they're all guys of the band in those days, they were all very keen that we do things well. And
Yeah.
I think one of the things that they recognised that if I was wanting to do new things, they were all on board, as long as they could see that it was going to be done well,
Yeah.
because they felt that, presenting the gospel in a very powerful and a really a sense of excellence in what we do was important. And
Yeah.
so I have to say, over the years, whatever we've done, when the guys have seen that we wanting to do it in an excellent way for God, they've been on board, and so that's
Yeah.
been, I think, something I've really appreciated in
Mhm.
the commitment of the band to their ministry.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that thought as well. Sometimes we we say, well, look, as long as I do my best for God, it doesn't matter that it's not very good, but if I can do my best. But uh, what I say is that, we worship an excellent God who, when He gives us a sunrise in the morning and you give it points out of 10, it's off the scale, isn't it? So if God is that way, why can't we be that way with what He gives us as well? We should have a commitment to excellence, I think, and we shouldn't be people who just say, well, I'll just do my best, and if it's not perfect, it'll just have to be. I think we should strive for excellence. I'm going to start preaching, so I'm going to stop there. Okay, a few more comments, Ken. Adrian Croucher from Stonemarket says, I was playing with Croydon Citadel Band when Les Condon was bandmaster. Les wrote a piece for the band centenary in '83. It was called Fairfield Fantasia, named after the local Fairfield halls. I remember it well. It had 56 different time changes. Unfortunately, I don't ever remember it being published. There's another one then, Fairfield Fantasia. It is recorded. I believe the album that Croydon recorded that on is called a Fairfield Fantasia. Could be wrong. If there's any Croydonites out there, you can let me know. Thanks for that, Adrian. A good observation. Fred Mbezi from the East Coast. Philadelphia, I think you are, Fred, aren't you? He says, evening, gents. Here we are, listening from the States, Delaware. Not Philadelphia, sorry. Enjoying the conversation and the insights. I became following the MSB with great interest after the To Boldly Go and Rise discs. Keep up the good work, Ken. Hey, there's some encouragement for you. Yeah, To Boldly Go and Rise are in the last sort of 10 years, aren't they, Ken? Those two
Yes,
albums.
probably our more recent
Yeah.
CDs. Yeah, certainly. Once again, probably some of our significant repertoire that we've featured, we've recorded on those, and obviously Rise is one that gets its title from your piece of music.
Yeah, I'd forgotten all about that piece. That's right. So when you said earlier a major work, that was the one you were talking about. That's right.
Yeah.
And that
One
piece.
we had to buy all those tuba mutes, Martin.
So that piece ended up costing you money, didn't it, rather than making money?
I think the tuba players had to mortgage their houses.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry, tuba players. Let's just leave that one there. We're moving on very quickly. Richard Carroll. Hi, Richard. Richard's from Hythe over in the UK. You may know him. He says,
Well,
Ken came to Hythe with the Australian Youth Band. One of the best weekends we ever had. You remember that, Ken? You have to say yes.
No, certainly do. Richard was sensational in his organisation. Hythe, I think, was our first stop, and for a lot of the young guys and girls in the band, that this was a first time experience of actually travelling overseas, and that weekend in Hythe was fantastic. Really was a fantastic weekend, and Richard was sensational in his organisation. But we had a fantastic march through the town, stop in the middle outside the local sort of town hall, whatever it might be there, I think, and played, and yes. It was a fantastic weekend in Hythe.
And I think I came to hear you at Bedford. That must have been the same tour. Was it about 5 years ago now? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And did you have Sylvie with you as well?
We did.
You did, yeah.
We snuck her on the bus with us. So she toured with the band for that whole period of time.
Wow.
So that was it, and something she speaks very fondly about. I think
nice.
It's something different ministry experience for her.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, unforgettable memories, I'm sure. How far back does your collaboration with Sylvie Palladino go now, Ken? Because she's been as far back as I can remember, in maybe more than 10 years.
Around, probably the very first association was probably in 2010. It was one of our MSB celebrations, whatever that year would have been, 110 celebration, 120. 120.
120, yeah, because it was 130. Hold on, so the band was established in 1890. Yeah, and 2010 is the 120. That's right, yeah.
So we invited Sylvie to be a guest at our concert, our anniversary concert. That was the first association, and then that same year we started a concert, our Christmas gift in Melbourne, which became an annual Christmas event. That ran for nearly 10 years, and Sylvie really was the main guest that we had at our concert each year. And we have a number of other guests, but Sylvie was the main feature, and she became the compere of that concert. And as you know, we've recorded 3 CDs with Sylvie. A wonderful association, and really an opportunity for ministry that we didn't think would come our way, nor did Sylvie. So it's been a special relationship that we've had with her over this period of time, and we certainly she's keen to continue that because opportunities for ministry in the theatre, in a musical sense, obviously don't come her way. But this has been something of a special relationship that we've had, that we've really been thrilled to be able to sort of share in such a unique ministry with her.
Yeah. Well, I've got a recording on YouTube of Sylvie with you guys at Boundless, and
yes.
I went to the concert because you started with Flashpoint, which I'd just written for you, and Sylvie, I think you finished with His Grace Still Amazes Me, and that she just. If the roof could have lifted, it would have done. It was so intense, so energetic, so effervescent. It was just wonderful, and that ending. And the thing is about Sylvie is when she sings with her heart, and she gives everything, doesn't she? It's a totally authentic presentation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. It's I suppose as a performer, she's really the complete package. You're right. Yeah. It's not just she sings. She really seriously sings those songs like it's very much coming from within her. It's something that's very powerful and passionate. Interesting enough, in our ministry, quite often, and while Sylvie would say, "I'm not a preacher of any kind," so often the words she spoke were just as powerful as her songs. But it's certainly a special gifted lady that certainly the Boundless experience was something quite wonderful for her as a Christian musician.
Yeah. But we've just got some take 5 minutes left. Ken, I think it would be great to just touch on Boundless just for a minute. We're going to just read one more comment, I think, or a couple more comments. Isaac Juarez from Argentina says, "Hi, come to Argentina."
Oh,
Okay.
right.
Yeah. Are you free next week, Ken?
Well, I'm more than happy to sort of go for a trip somewhere. That's for sure.
Yeah. Isaac, when the world changes, who knows what the possibilities could be. But thank you for that. Glad you're joining in the stream tonight. And Stuart Northfield, hi Stuart. He's from my corps here in Cambridge. He says the Croydon CD is Fairfield Fantasia, and it's 1991 that came out. Yeah, I thought so. Thanks for that, Stuart. It's a great CD, and what a loss actually Les was, and a great gain for Heaven. But that's probably a conversation for another day. Let's talk Boundless for a couple of minutes, Ken, and give us one or two of your memories. I was chatting a few weeks ago on this live stream with Rebecca Raymond, who was a fabulous, and who is another fabulous talent, and a good collaboration you've had as a band with. And she was speaking about her memories. What are one or two things that stick out in the mind for you, Ken, from Boundless?
I think probably the experience. I think one of the concerts the band did with the Vassar Gospel Choir, Melbourne Staff Band, and Sylvie Palladino.
Yeah.
That was probably a very powerful moment for all of us in the Melbourne Staff Band. It was a special concert, a special worship experience for so many of us. Yeah. I think that probably stands out. I think the opportunity to sort of be in the O2 Arena with thousands upon thousands of people, I think was quite significant. The internationalism of the Salvation Army, those sort of events sort of really comes home to you. And I think just the observing people from other countries so passionately worshipping in their own way in that particular place was something really significant. I share a funny story that Sylvie quite often shares, because when she came, obviously, she's a Baptist girl, so she's not a Salvationist. She's a Baptist, but she did raise the... when she came along, we were sitting in one of the big events there, and the general came in with his wife, and as he comes in, he's sort of saluting and all that sort of stuff as he goes around. And Sylvie made the comment, she was sitting next to me, and she says, what's he pointing at? What's he pointing at? And I said, that's the army salute. That's the army salute, saluting Jesus. And so she said, from there on, she was saluting the whole time. But a wonderful experience. And I think, just the opportunity to come together from all around the world to share an experience like that. Probably, and I think particularly when you consider the state we're in at the moment, so isolated from each other in so many ways, it heightens the thrill of being part of such events. I think they were just some of the special moments for me.
Yeah, fantastic. I mentioned Rebecca, but of course she was with you guys at ISB 120 a few years before. What a great event that was as well. You got to share the stage with 7 other staff bands. I think there was 8 altogether, wasn't there? Was that right? Yeah, I think so. And each band did its own session, a 30-minute program, I think it was, in the Albert Hall. And I just remember yours being spectacular. It was wonderful, because I think that might be the time Rebecca sang "Now I Belong to Jesus," that Bill Broughton setting, which has just brought the house down, didn't it? What are your memories of ISB 120 and that occasion?
Yeah, similarly, I suppose you mentioned the set that we played on that Saturday afternoon, and Rebecca was fantastic on that occasion. It was one of those things. I think might have been Andrew Blythe said to me that he'd never heard someone walk into the Albert Hall first time ever, sing and take hold of it the way she did on that particular concert. She did sing well, and the band was once again been thrilled to have sort of vocalists that really sort of give us that extra dimension, I suppose, in our ministry. That's been important to us. But sharing with the other staff bands. Were you in the staff band yourself, Martin?
No, I was a long time ago. I wasn't in the staff band at that time.
Yeah, you were, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what I was going to say was there is a unique ministry and a unique nature of fellowship about being in the staff band.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I think us coming together in that way from staff bands all around the world
mm,
um, was really quite significant.
yeah,
And I think for us, we would hope that that experience for ourselves was not only something that we experienced, but for the thousands upon thousands of people that actually were part of that whole weekend. I would hope that it would be something significant for them as well.
Well, amen to that, Ken. We've reached our hour. It just remains for me to thank you, Ken, because it's been such a joy for me to chat with you just for this hour. We've talked about faith, and we've talked about those nearest and dearest to us. We've spoken about our passion for the Salvation Army. We spoke about pushing doors and discerning God's calling as well, which is really, really important in the Christian life. And great to share some of your memories as well from the early days of the MSB, and then coming through as a bandmaster in '94. And for me, Ken, you know, my final comment about you and your leadership of the MSB is it's just this innovation. Really, it's been really brilliant, and it's not everybody's thing. Not every staff band can do what you guys do, but if we all stick to our strengths and do what we're good at, then that's how we're going to reach people more effectively. So long may the MSB work to its strengths, and long may it blaze those trails for other bands to follow. So prayers for you and for your family and for the band. It's tough for all the staff bands at the moment, and for bands everywhere, of course, not being able to meet. We're definitely feeling the pinch in terms of fellowship. And so let's hope it's not going to be too long before you guys are back in the band room
Yes.
making
Yeah.
music for the Lord.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So thank you, Ken. Yeah, appreciate your time. Everybody, I'll be back in 2 weeks' time chatting to the marvelous composer Dorothy Gates, Northern Irish born composer living in New York. And Dorothy's been writing some really, really wonderful music for the Salvation Army in recent years, and I'm going to talk to her about her method and her experience of the Lord, and how faith and music come together for Dorothy. So tune in on the 15th of November, Sunday the 15th at 9 p.m. GMT, and that'll be a Monday morning for all you guys in Oz, down there in the Southern Hemisphere. So we hope you can join us for that. So Ken, any final words before we sign off?
Just thanks for the opportunity, Martin. Great to share. We've chatted over the time about music mainly. It's just been great to spend the hour with you, and wish you well in your ministry and what you're doing, and continue to enjoy the opportunity of playing your music when it comes our way, which we, I think, certainly would say that God has used your gifting in a special way, and we're glad to be part of that in any way we can.
Thanks, Ken. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Ken and I will give you a lovely wave because we love you all. And in all seriousness, hope to see you in a couple of weeks. Be blessed, everybody. Cheerio. Bye-bye.